Hello everyone, Ayla Sussex here, narrating for BioGeoTerra. Today, we're going to be talking about the history of Islamic expansion in a nutshell. According to Khadija bint Khuwailid, who was Muhammad's first wife, his first revelation was the event in which Muhammad was visited by the Archangel Gabriel in 610 AD. The event took place in a cave called Hira, located in the mountain called Jabal an-Nur, near Mecca. Soon after Muhammad's revelation, he started to form a theology, some of this theology starting to bump up against ideologies of the myriad of faiths that existed in Mecca at the time, and the priestly caste thereof. And in 622 AD, he moved to Medina. For the next 10 years, Muhammad grew his influence and power, conquering Mecca in the process. And on June 8, 632 AD, Muhammad died, with most of the Arab Peninsula under his control. It is important to point out here the duality between the Meccan and Medinan verses. So, in Mecca, in the first instance, where he was a minority, where Islam was a minority, the Quran preaches openness, tolerance, etc. And when Islam is in a majority, the Quran demands the jihad, the overthrowing of the people who are essentially the host people to the Muslim. The land that Muhammad conquered fell under the control of the Rashidun Caliphate. Between 632 and 661 AD, they expanded through conquest, taking over Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, northern Libya, Syria, Iraq, southern Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Iran. They were succeeded by the Umayyad Caliphate from 661 to 750 AD. They swept through Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and even some of the oldest Christian kingdoms of Armenia and Georgia. The Muslim conquest reached as far as Sicily and Benevento in Naples, and they had conquered the entire Visigothic kingdom of Spain. But when they expanded into the Vascones county in France and tried to subjugate the kingdoms of Aquitaine and Gascony, this prompted the retaliation of the leader of the Franks, Charles the Hammer Martel, who gathered a Frankish army and crushed the Islamic Caliphate at Tours in France in 732 AD, and again 3 years later in Arles. In 750 AD, the Abbasid dynasty rose to power, consolidating the gains of the earlier caliphates. Initially, they conquered the Mediterranean islands, including the Balearics, and as forementioned, Sicily, taking the island off of the Byzantine Empire, who had conquered it in an attempt to restore the ancient Roman Empire under the reign of Justinian I. During this time, the Caliphate engaged in horrific, constant, and brutal wars against Christians, Jews, Hindus, and Zoroastrians, killing many millions and raping many millions more, also forcing all non-Muslims to pay the jizya, a large tax forcing many to convert or die. During this time, the Caliphate started fractionalizing, with the Fatimid Caliphate taking center stage, with them controlling North Africa, the Levant, and Western Arabia, the Buyid dynasty in Iraq and Persia, and the new Umayyad Caliphate of Cordoba, controlling Iberia and sometimes North Africa, later morphing into the Moorish Almohad Caliphate, that had satraps as far down as the Almoravid Africans. The further invasion into the Caucasus and Asia was stopped by the European Crusades in 1096 AD and the Mongols during the 1200s. But during this time, the Seljuk Turks, who were an offshoot of the Abbasid Caliphate, were consolidating control over Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and the House of Osman, which was the predecessor dynasty to the Ottoman Empire, was busy carving up the last pieces of the Byzantine Confederation, taking advantage of its fractured state and recruiting janissaries or new troops from the Orthodox Christian populations thereof. An often overlooked period of the Islamic expansion happened in Asia. During this time, places like the Indian subcontinent, from the campaigns of Timur-Lane, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines were becoming Islamified. From 1299 AD, the Ottoman roots grow from a small tribe in Anatolia to May 29, 1453, taking over Constantinople and most of Anatolia in Greece. They were defeated the first time at the siege of Constantinople because the Byzantines had constructed cannons along the Theodosian walls that were thought to be impenetrable. But holding no sense of kinship, the treacherous Hungarians constructed cannon enough for the Ottomans to breach the Theodosian walls and butcher Constantine's city, along with the entire flower of the Roman nobility and the emperor himself, who chose to stay and fight and die in the defense of his city. Over the next 200 years, they would use these cannons to conquer Serbia, Bulgaria, Albania, Bosnia, Croatia, Hungary itself, and southern Romania and Cyprus. They also started a large navy and extorted wealth going along the Mediterranean and Black Seas, to the point where Europeans could no longer trade with China and thus looked for a western route in order to do so. The Ottomans' European prospects were crushed at both battles of Vienna and in 1529 the Great Turkish Wars, which started in 1683 and ended in 1699, resulted in the loss of Hungary, signifying the end of the expansion of the Ottoman Empire. Over the next 100 years, the Ottoman Empire failed to adapt to a changing world, and Europeans soon developed far past them. In the 19th century, they started to lose major military conflicts. By the turn of the 20th century, they had lost most of their land in the Balkans, North Africa, and the Caucasus. And with the rise of the colonial powers of the UK and France, Islamic power was at an all-time low. In the division of the Ottomans at the end of the First World War, there were no Islamic powers. Seeing that it was difficult to hold together the states that they were able to be formed and to be able to develop modern nations economically and militarily in the old Islamic model, they turned to a demographic, revolutionary, and genocidal methods of obtaining power. As you can see in countries like Nigeria, Sudan, Ethiopia, Lebanon, Bosnia, Albania, and Eritrea, I hope that civilized and decent societies will unite to defeat the ruthless scourge that is radical and expansionist Islam. Please like and subscribe and share this video. Thank you for watching.